She was called Princess in school because everything in her life was perfect. But that name would soon become a question. Who is Princess if not protected? Anita was the daughter of a man with influence. Everybody knew her father. They lived in the best neighborhood. Her school was top tier. Her life was easy until the day she heard the news. It was common entrance exam day. She was sitting in the hall where her cousin called. Princess, your father is gone. The funeral felt like a foreign film in slow motion. Uncles arrived not to comfort but to claim land, houses, bank accounts vanishing in legal smoke. Her mother, once the pillar of community gathering, now worked odd hours just to put rice on the table. Anita passed her exam, but they had no money for university. Her dreams, those long nights imagining campus life, turned to dread. She learned to braid hair in exchange for small cash. Hairdressing became survival. Slowly she found pride in working, harvesting dignity from desperation. Her mother's health declined, chronic heart disease. A surgery could save her, but they couldn't afford it. Every meal counted, dreams felt greedy. She wondered, what kind of daughter is she, who can't even save her own mother? And then one afternoon a friend arrived. Her name is Rachel. She was a childhood friend who had moved abroad, the kind of friends who never forget. She came back with cash, a promise of hope. But what she offered wasn't what Anita expected. Anita, I will help you, said Rachel. But I can't just give you money. I want you to learn how to make it. Anita nodded. Then came the truth. She worked in Ghana. She entered prostitution. She offered Anita the job. Only one time, sister, then you will rise. Anita words spun. She was raised in church. She would wear white dresses for communion. Yet now, she's faced with the unthinkable. She could turn away, but that meant 2 hungry stomachs would go to bed, and so she went. With a trembling step and with a shattered prayer, this is where Anita's journey truly begins. From the safety of privilege to the loneliness of her choice. And though she didn't know it yet, her story would not end in shame. It would end in grace. Ghana greeted her like a warm but heavy coat. Everything felt new, strange, distant. Rachel, on the other hand, was waiting for Anita. And when she saw Anita, she hugged her tightly. But Anita couldn't feel the warmth of that hug because she knew what came next. At first, Rachel took her to meet the madam, an old woman with fierce eyes and perfume that lingered too long. You're beautiful, the woman said. They will love you. And guess what? The men did. Her first week, she was already sending money home. By month 2, she had fans, VIP clients, and attention. Men gave her new clothes, gifts, and whispered sweet words she tried not to believe. She would cry on Sundays, not because she regretted it, but because part of her had gone numb, and numbness is how the soul survives when it feels it can't come home. One night, something strange happened. Anita had a dream, and in this dream, a man stood on a mountain, eyes like fire. He didn't scream, he just simply said, "Return." And when she woke up, her heart pounded, but she shook it off. Just a dream, she whispered. The next day, she was walking down the street, heading to a client. A man bumped into her and apologized. And then she turned back and stared. "You!" And then the man said, You were in my vision last night. It was the man from the dream, preacher. And just like that in the dream, he said again, return. Anita froze. Not because she was scared, but because in that moment, something cracked. Not her pride, but her pain. She didn't go to that client that day. She went home and she sat alone and sobbed until her nail hit the tile floor. She whispered, God, if you can see me, help me live this life. And for the first time in months, she felt peace. She didn't tell Rachel, not yet. She started saying no to clients quietly. She started praying at night. She started dreaming again, not of fear, but of freedom. But light always triggers jealousy, you know. Rachel noticed her clients were asking for Anita more. She saw Anita dressing differently, smiling without makeup, and one night, Rachel snapped. You think you're better than me now? Anita tried to explain, but Rachel didn't want truth. She wanted control. And control always strikes when it feels it's sleeping. Then came the poison attempt, a meal left out. Anita didn't touch it. Somehow she just knew. And then also came the thugs. Rachel hired men to scare, threaten, and remove her from the scene. One of those men recognized Anita. Wait, he said, I know this girl. He was the stranger she once helped months ago when he was being chased, and she has hidden him. I owe her my life, he told the others. She's different. Leave her be. He warned Anita of the plan. She wept, not from fear, but betrayal. She comforted Rachel though. Guess what? Rachel lied, cried, and played the victim. But Anita no longer needed validation. She had already been chosen by grace. Anita packed her bag in silence. Not with fear, but with finality. She didn't need to slam doors or shout her truth. Living was loud enough. Rachel didn't stop her. In truth, she couldn't. Because when his soul is no longer in bondage, chains become powerless. Anita flew back to Nigeria. Her hometown had not changed much, but she has. She no longer walked with her head down. She walked with purpose. Even if she still had no money in her pocket, her mother wept when she saw her. Not because she came back, but because something in her came alive. There was still no money. Her mother's surgery loomed like a cloud. But Anita knew if she was meant to save her mom, then help would come. She began praying daily. She started volunteering at church to work. And without even trying, her story spread. Not the shameful version, but the powerful one, the redemption story. One Sunday, a woman approached her. She has heard Anita's story from someone else. She said, you remind me of my daughter, and I want to help. She paid for Anita's mother's surgery in full. It was a miracle. But not the only one. Anita started a small hairdressing business with the last of her Ghana savings. She didn't hide her past. She turned it into purpose. Soon, other girls started coming to her, not for gossip, but for guidance. She wasn't just healing herself, she was healing others. One afternoon, Anita was walking home when she saw a familiar face sitting outside a small curtain. Rachel, alone, broken. Time has not been kind to her. Their eyes met, but no words were exchanged. Anita simply nodded and walked on, not in pride, but in peace. Because that was justice and not revenge, not punishment, but rising so high that the person who once tried to bury you can't even reach your shadow. Months later, Anita was invited to speak at a youth conference. She stood in front of over 300 women. She shared her story, raw, honest, redeemed. And when she was done, the crowd stood, applauded, and wept. Not for her past, but for her courage. Because they saw in her what many never see in themselves, the power to start over. Anita now runs a foundation. She trains girls in hairdressing. She counsels women out of street work. She speaks in schools and smiles every single time someone says, "You don't look like what you've been through." Because this was never a story about prostitution or betrayal or pain. It was a story about the moment a woman said, "I will not let this be my ending," and God answered. Some people think healing happens like a switch. 1 minute you're broken, the next you're whole. But Anita knows better. Healing is a journey of coming home to yourself again and again. And sometimes it begins with a whisper, a prayer said alone in a quiet room. Dear God, I don't know why you choose me. I don't know why you let me walk that road. But thank you for walking with me. Thank you for the night I cried and didn't die. Thank you for the thorns that became my altar. Thank you for calling me home before it was too late. That was her prayer. No rehearsed line. No long list of scriptures. Just truth. And something changed that night. Not in word, but inside her. She finally believed what no one has ever told her, that her own story was never meant to shame her, but it was meant to save others. She now walks streets where she was once sold shame. She now carries hope. She lives in the same town where people once whispered her name, but now they say it with respect. And Rachel, she left town eventually. No one really know where she went. Some stories didn't end with closure, just distance and peace. Anita didn't need an apology. She didn't need the past undone. She needed freedom. And she gave that to herself by saying yes to a new life. There are some stories we're told not to tell because it's either too messy or too shameful or too hard to believe. But these are the stories that saves life. Maybe you're like Anita, or maybe you've been down a path no one knows about. Maybe you've cried behind doors no one knocks on. Maybe you've had to do things you never imagined just to survive. And maybe you're wondering, can anything beautiful come out of your story? Yes. Because healing is not about erasing the past. It's about rewriting the future. And you can start that today, right now. A breath that says, I am not what happened to me. I am who I choose to become. This is Ask Gracious. And if you're still here, I want you to know you were never alone. You were never alone in your pain, not even in your shame, and not in your comeback. This story found you for a reason. So don't scroll past your healing. Don't silence your own journey. Tell it, live it, and let it set someone free.